This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
From Houston, Texas, this is the Liberty Root Podcast.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
History is absolutely crystal clear that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by free enterprise system.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Get down.
Behind the stand. Relax. Hey. Don't push. 16910 means we got shots fired. 4:15 at Route 291. Sounded like an automatic firearm.
Copy, code red at 169 Sammy. They have shots.
179 Sammy is coming from upstairs in the Mandalay Bay. Upstairs in Mandalay Bay, halfway up. I see the shots coming from Mandalay Bay. Halfway up. Stroll 361 IC. We have multiple 415A breaks. Give me a surge. We have an active shooter. Inside the whereabouts.
Shots fired from Mandalay Bay. There's many people down. Stage left. Just be advised.
790 right. I'm going to form a strike team. Mandalay Bay and the Boulevard. I need 5 officers on me.
Control 020.
020, go ahead.
Sit on the suspect's door. I need everybody in that hallway to be aware of it and get back. We need to pop this and see if we get any type of response from this guy to see if he's in here or if he's actually moved out somewhere else.
Copy. All units on the 32nd floor. SWAT has explosive breach. Everyone in the hallway needs to move back. All units move back.
Breach. They need to wait. We are clearing this room. We have one suspect.
We need the air clear for Zebra 20. They have one suspect down inside the room. Zebra 20 has one suspect down inside the room.
Las Vegas, Nevada. A gunman on a high floor of a Las Vegas hotel
rained hundreds of bullets on an outdoor concert festival on Sunday night, killing at least 58 people, injuring hundreds of others, and sending thousands of terrified survivors fleeing for cover in one of the deadliest mass shootings in American history. And I know as you're probably listening to this, those numbers are probably a lot higher and different now. You guys listen to the podcast on Wednesday evenings, and a lot of this podcast is recorded on Monday. And since the events are still new and fresh, the numbers are developing and changing by the minute. So I'm sure these numbers, by the time we get to Wednesday, are going to be a lot higher. Online video of the attack near Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino showed the singer Jason Aldean's performance at the Route 91 Harvest Festival, a 3-day country music event being interrupted by the sound of gunfire. The music stopped, and as the victims fell bleeding, concert-goers screamed and ducked for cover, or ran. "Get down," one shouted. "Stay down," screamed another. The police found the gunman, who they identified, but I won't on this podcast, for he is a terrorist, and fame is what I assume is what he's wanting, and that he will not get here. They found him dead in his hotel room. Investigators were still combing through the shooter's background and searching his home on Monday. Among the weapons authorities discovered were 2 rifles with scopes on tripods positioned in front of the 2 windows that had been broken out, one of the law enforcement officials said. The Islamic State claimed that the shooter was one of its soldiers, but did not provide any evidence of its claim. And I want to stop right here and just talk a little bit about Islamic State and how they always claim responsibility after all of these things. Well, as it'll stay here a little bit later as we continue to read into this story, he has no background or no known association with anything Islamic or anything tied to ISIS whatsoever. So this makes me think that the whole platform that ISIS stands on is really one of nothingness and no reason, and their fix, their high, is bloodshed of innocent men, women, and children, in any way that they can possibly get that bloodshed. They validate it by this fake, false, stupid religion that they claim to be all holy, when all actuality it is evil beyond evil, and it isn't a religion at all. It's just a huge terror gang organization that has no ties to any type of religion, and I don't care who you are and what you say. Because this guy, like I said, had no background, no previous ties, no memoirs, no writings, no diary entries as of now, which, like I said, I'm recording this on Monday, so by Wednesday, and then next podcast I may renege on my statements, and it may be a whole different story, but as of now, what we have is he has nothing tied to the Islamic State, but yet they're saying that we, as the Islamic State, take full responsibility and credit for this as him being one of our great holy soldiers. And it's crazy that ISIS would even claim this, because if he wasn't associated with them at all, then therefore he wouldn't go along with their religious convictions, so-called religious convictions and religious beliefs. So to them, he would be an infidel, and to them, he would be one of the ones that if they came over here and, like in Orlando, and decided to shoot up a nightclub, he would be one of the first ones to go, because he was a white, non-Muslim or Islam person. But now that I think about it, even though they are 2 separate entities, they are the same in one. Both are terrorists, but separate responsibility. This guy has his own motive. I don't know his motive as of yet, or if he even had one. If he just broke and this was the outcome of a mental sickness that he had. That it is too early to tell now, but regardless of what it was, this guy is a terrorist. There's no question about that. But just the fact that Islamic State, anytime that they see innocent life lost, they see, oh, this is our opportunity to take credit for something that we didn't actually do. So they're different, but yet the same. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, then I don't know how else to explain it to you. And like I said, the FBI even says that there was no evidence so far that the shooter had any ties to the international terrorist organization. Speaking at the White House on Monday, President Trump condemned the shooting as an act of pure evil and called for the country to come together, saying that our unity cannot be shattered by evil, our bonds cannot be broken by violence. So, who was the gunman? Like I said, I'm not going to say names here on the podcast, but I'll say everything about him other than that, because I'm not giving him any type of credibility or recognition on my show. Others can do it because they like ratings and they know that people want to put a name to a face, which by now you all probably know his name, but you can't say that you heard it here. The shooter, he was 64, and he was from Mesquite, Nevada. And I believe that's about, 100 miles north of Las Vegas. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. And he had no significant prior criminal history of any kind. I think the only thing that they said is he had a traffic ticket or a parking ticket or something like that on his former history. That was paid. It wasn't still delinquent or anything. Let's see. They're searching through everything right now. They're searching through his financial history to search for any type of clues that could determine what set him off. The FBI has sent dozens of agents and evidence technicians to Las Vegas to try and find out some more information on this terrorist. And before dawn on Monday, the police searched the shooter's house in Mesquite, a town. Here it is, the town on the Nevada-Arizona border. So it's south. I'm sorry. The police moved cautiously at first, evacuating surrounding homes in case that there were any explosives or booby traps, but none were found in the home. The Mesquite Police Department said no one was in the house. At least one firearm and ammunition were found, they said, but they gave few other details about what that search turned up. The gunman's father, who I will also not name, had a troubled past history, according to the brother of the shooter, who lives in Orlando, Florida. The brother of the shooter was convicted of serial bank robbery. The father of the shooter was convicted of serial bank robbery in 1961, according to news reports from the Times. After he escaped from prison, he was on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list for much of the 1970s. The brother of the shooter said he made a statement to the police in an interview with CBS. He said that his brother was not an avid gun guy at all, and adding, if he had killed my kids, I wouldn't have been more dumbfounded. And he also goes on to say the fact that he had those kinds of weapons is just, well, where did he get automatic weapons? And then he said he had no military background or anything like that. He said his brother was a guy who lived in a house in Mesquite and drove down every once in a while, or frequently, I guess it says here, and gambled in Las Vegas. He said that his brother, who was the shooter, had recently texted him to ask how their mother was faring after Hurricane Irma just hit Florida a few weeks ago. The hotel remained on partial lockdown late Monday morning, as it had since the shooting. The casino floor was largely empty, though a few gamblers played slots. Hotel employees were offering coffee, pastries, cases of water to stranded guests. A bellman at the hotel said the gunman's car was still in the valet, which had been shut down. Melissa Ayla, 41, came to the country music festival with 4 friends from Orange, California. They were drinking and laughing, and when they heard what they thought was fireworks, she did not realize at first that it was gunfire until a man near them was grazed by a bullet and fell to the ground, blood coming from his neck. It seemed like rapid fire, she said. The blood was pouring everywhere. "Where do you run to?" said her friend, Sammy Espinoza, 38, as she wiped away tears. "It's either run and get shot and die, or stay and get shot and die. Those were their choices at the time," she felt. So here's a little bit more into the terrorist organization ISIS. This is their claim. The Islamic State claimed on Monday that the gunman was a soldier of the Islamic State, but the group did not provide any evidence for its claim. It has previously made false claims about its roles in some terror attacks, kind of like what we talked about just a few minutes ago. Aaron Ruse, the FBI special agent in charge of Las Vegas, said that so far there was no proof that the shooter had any links to any international terrorist organizations. Citing a source, the terror group's news agency said the assailant had responded to calls for targeting coalition countries. That phrase is a reference to the famous 2014 speech made by Abdul Muhammad al-Abdadi, a former Islamic State spokesman who called for sympathizers around the world to carry out violence in the group's name on the soil of countries involved in the fight against ISIS. In a second bulletin about the Las Vegas shooting, the news agency said the attacker had converted to Islam months earlier, but like I said, there is no evidence as of now, as I'm speaking on this Monday. You're hearing it Wednesday evening, right now on this Monday, that there's no ties to ISIS in any way from anything that I've read into or seen so far. Here's what we do know about the gunman. Christopher Sullivan, general manager of Guns and Guitars, a shop in Mesquite, Nevada, said he was awakened at 4 a.m. Monday by a telephone call from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, which was tracing the shooter's guns. Mr. Sullivan confirmed that the shooter had bought 3 guns at his shop, a handgun and 2 rifles, within the last year. All the purchases were legal and cleared routine federal screening, Mr. Sullivan said. The man does not have any criminal history, Mr. Sullivan said of the shooter. Mr. Sullivan, who said he has also been contacted by the FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, would not provide detailed descriptions of the guns. We have cooperated with local and federal authorities, he said. He described the shooter as seeming like a normal fellow, a normal guy, nothing out of the ordinary. As far as what goes on in a person's mind, I couldn't tell you, Mr. Sullivan said. I know nothing about him personally. So, how did the shooting unfold? The first reports of the shooting came at about 10:08 p.m. local time. Officers were overheard on a police radio channels reporting that they were pinned down by gunfire. Shortly before midnight, the Las Vegas police reported that one suspect is down, and soon after, the police said they did not believe there were any more active gunmen. The Route 91 Harvest Festival bills itself as 3 days of country music on the Vegas Strip, and Sunday night's performance was the last of the festival. The site of the concert was Las Vegas Village, the festival grounds operated by MGM Resorts. It's about 15 acres and has the capacity of 40,000 people. The festival's website said that this year's 3-day concert was sold out. Teen J. Floyd of Boise, Idaho, said many of the people around her in the concert crowd thought at first the sounds came from fireworks, but I knew immediately that it wasn't fireworks. She said her mother Jennifer threw her to the ground and lay on top of her to protect her. As people started running out of the venue, she said they thought they might be trampled, so they decided to join the rush and leave. Video of the shooting captured 9 seconds of continuous rapid fire, followed by 30 seconds of silence from the weapon and panic and screaming from the crowd. Gunfire then erupted again, and at least 2 more burst, both shorter than the first. In the confusion after the shooting, the police also descended on the Alibaba restaurant, about 10-minute drive from Mandalay Bay, and investigated reports of a shooting at the New York Hotel and Casino not far from the concert ground. The police reported clearing out the Mandalay Bay's 29th floor and then working their way up to the 32nd floor. A police Twitter post described reports of an active shooter near or around the Mandalay Bay Casino. SWAT units swarmed the upper floors of Mandalay Bay, closing in on the source of the shooting, a room on the 32nd floor where they found the gunman with an excess of 10 rifles, the sheriff said. We believe the individual killed himself prior to our entry. Videos from the shooting showed Mr. Aldean, the final performer of the night, running off the stage as the gunfire erupted. Jake Owen, a country singer who was on stage with Mr. Aldean when the shooting began, told CNN on Monday that it was like shooting fish in a barrel from where he was. This was not an exaggeration. The shooting was going on for at least 10 minutes, he added. It was nonstop. Concert-goers described hearing round after round of gunfire. Everyone was running. You could see people getting shot. Gail Davis, one of the witnesses, said, I've never been so scared in my life, she added. To have this happen, I can't wrap my mind around it. The president called the act of pure evil. Speaking at the White House, like I mentioned earlier, the Trump called it an act of pure evil and ordered flags to be flown at half staff, and he said that he would be traveling to Las Vegas today, Wednesday, for you, to speak with the victims who were affected by this tragedy, as well as speak to local police and law enforcement officials there in Las Vegas. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security are working closely with the local authorities to assist in the investigation. Mr. Trump said that he praised the performance of the Las Vegas police. The speed in which they reacted was miraculous and prevented further loss of life. And that's what we know so far. Like I said, I'm recording this on Monday. I'm sure by the time that you hear this on Wednesday, it's going to be even more developed, and we'll know a lot more facts by that time. But that's kind of a rundown of what I've compiled from a few different sources as far as what exactly is known now. And right now, as I'm sitting on this podcast, it's 5:54 Central Time, p.m., so 6:54 p.m. on the East Coast, and this last piece of information that I gathered was updated about 2 hours ago. So this is pretty much the most recent things of events that I currently possess in front of me, and I try to give you the most up-to-date developments as we have them here on the Liberty Root podcast. Okay, now with the background of that, the Vegas shootings and the shooter, what do you think today was all about for the libs? Do you think it was our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and families who were affected by this great tragedy? Do you think it was calling the shooter evil, terrorist? Do you think it was, saying that they're gonna get on the next plane and head to Vegas, not to pull a slot machine, but to hold the hands of grieving mothers, brothers, wives, husbands, sons, grandsons, granddaughters, so they have somebody just to cry with them because they're in a time of need? Nope. We need more restrictions on guns. I know you didn't want me to go there. You didn't want me to make this about guns, and nor did I. I did not want to make it about guns. But when I hear stuff being touted all over the news from these stupid liberals, why don't I have that right to then speak up and shut it down? Because when somebody's touting false premises about gun control, when they have no idea even what guns are. They know what guns are, but half of them probably never even held one in their hands or went through a safety course. They say they're loud and they kill people, therefore they shouldn't be on the streets. But what liberals don't like is a little word called statistics. And I could go on for hours and hours about statistics showing how stupid the liberals are and making them more look like imbeciles. But I won't, because no matter how much I spout it, no matter how much I say it, it's going to go through one ear and out the other, because they're going to be stuck in their ways, because it pushes their political agenda and ultimately lines their pockets. But more guns equals less crime. Do your research. That's not just some line that I'm just spouting here on the podcast. More guns equals less crime. It's a fact. And I will say, this Vegas incident is an incident where if somebody was armed, it would still be very difficult to take out this particular shooter. It's something like we've never really seen here in the United States, besides assassinations of presidents and so forth. But on a mass scale like this, where right now 58 people have died from this, I can't argue with that statement. But listen to that video that I played at the beginning of this podcast. Did that sound like guns that you can just buy over the over the counter by passing just a simple background check, or did those sound like artillery guns, heavy fired guns that aren't legal to anybody other than the military? Those, listen again, go back, listen again. It didn't sound like any regular gun. They sounded like a very high-powered caliber gun. And even that store owner said that he's bought a couple guns from him over the past, year or so. But the police are saying that he had 10, and then in some cases I've seen, I think according to CNN, it was saying that he had upwards of 20 guns in the hotel room. And my second question is, how did he get these guns into his hotel room? Because I believe he checked in on Thursday, so from Thursday to, when was it, Sunday, you're telling me that he was able to take upwards of 20 guns, high capacity guns, just right through the front door and up the elevator and into his room? That's what I'm still waiting to find out, how all of that went down and exactly what these weapons were. But the liberals don't care. I mean, they don't care. They don't care at all. And I really don't want to say any more about this story just because it's so fluid at the moment, and I just want to say what we know so far, because my tongue has gotten me in trouble before. So before I speak too much, I just want to pull the reins in a little bit and say that our thoughts and prayers are with everybody who was affected by this terrorist act in Las Vegas this past weekend. And something that was very saddening to me. Do you guys remember how we were as a country after 9/11, on 9/12? It wasn't a thing. Politics didn't exist on 9/12. It was unity. It was Americanism. It was coming together no matter what background or race you were from. But what happens in a situation like this? Just 12 hours after this terrible tragedy, you have the liberals coming on television, making it political, instantly. Before even the police know the facts of the story, they come out and make it political. Where did that 9/12/2001 America go? And the recent form of that Americanism that we saw has been through devastation, not acts of violence, but through devastation with the recent hurricanes, like we've talked about in podcast number 9. And it's scary that Americanism is fading away. It was still that reminder that after something horrendous such as this happens, that we still have that unity. But now, after something like this, I guess it's just divisiveness, hate-filled, jump to conclusions, make my political statement louder than your political statement. And oh yeah, I'm sorry, a couple people died. It's on the back burner. Human life was on the back burner. It was guns, 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 guns. Get them off the street, get them off the street, get them off the street. Oh yeah, sorry, 58 people died. That's terrible. Let's get back to being who we are best. And that is an American. Like I said, our thoughts and prayers go out to all these families. I can't imagine going through and living the rest of my life knowing that I lost somebody who was involved in something so horrendous as this. And the only satisfaction right now that we can get out of this is that hell is burning hotter than it has ever burned before. Back in a minute.
This is the Liberty Root Podcast.
Shut up and sit down.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast on this beautiful fall evening. I want to read you something that I came across, and it was written by Ruth Apperson Rouse, and it's entitled "I Am the Flag." And I think it's really appropriate to read it with the current situation going on now in the NFL. And I want to read it, and then we'll discuss it a little bit after I'm finished. It's called "I Am the Flag." I am the flag of the United States of America. I was born on June 14th, 1777 in Philadelphia. There, the Continental Congress adopted my stars and stripes as the national flag. My 13 stripes, alternating red and white with the union of the 13 white stars in a field of blue, represented a new constellation, a new nation dedicated to the personal and religious liberty of mankind. Today, 50 stars signal from my union, one for each of the 50 sovereign states in the greatest constitutional republic the world has ever known. My colors symbolize the patriotic ideals and spiritual qualities of its citizens of my country. My red stripes proclaim the fearless courage and integrity of American men and boys, and the self-sacrifice and devotion of American mothers and daughters. My white stripes stand for liberty and equality for all. My blue is the blue of heaven, loyalty, and faith. I represent these eternal principles of liberty, justice, and humanity. I embody American freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, assembly, the press, and the sanctity of the home. I am as old as my nation. I am a living symbol of my nation's law, the Constitution of the United States, and the Bill of Rights. I voice Abraham Lincoln's philosophy, a government of the people, by the people, for the people. I stand guard over my nation's schools, the seedbed of good citizenship and true patriotism. I am displayed in every schoolroom throughout my nation. Every schoolyard has a flagpole for my display. Every day, all around the country, schoolboys and schoolgirls pledge their allegiance to me and my country. I have my own law, Public Law 829, the Flag Code, which definitely states my correct use and display for all occasions and situations. I have my own special day, Flag Day. June 14th is set aside to honor my birth. Americans, I am the sacred emblem of your country. I symbolize your birthright, your heritage of liberty purchased with blood and sorrow. I am your title deed of freedom, which is yours to enjoy and hold in trust for prosperity. If you fail to keep this sacred trust, and if I am nullified or destroyed, I am afraid it will be too late to resort back to those good old days of good old glory. Eternal vigilance is your price of freedom. And as you see me silhouetted against the peaceful skies of my country, remind yourself that I am the flag of your country, that I stand for what you are, therefore you must stand for what I am, no more and no less. Guard me well, lest your freedom perish from the earth. Dedicate your lives to those principles for which I stand. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was created in freedom. I made my first appearance in a battle for human liberty. God grant that I may spend eternity in my land of the free and home of the brave, and that I shall ever be known as Old Glory, the flag of the United States of America. Well, I've been on vacation, so I haven't been able to really weigh in on this topic a whole lot. But here's kind of my opinion on the whole thing. First of all, I think it is utterly disgusting to show any type of disrespect for our flag, and especially by sitting down or kneeling in front of our flag while the Star-Spangled Banner is being sung. I mean, it's a disgrace. And stemming from this, I've had, people, I'm sure, question me, if I'm going to stop watching the NFL. Because a lot of people are not watching the NFL now. And that's perfectly fine. I don't blame you really at all for not watching, because that's what you stand for, and that's what you believe, because you, like me, have that true love for country and that true love for Americanism. So anything to disrespect that, we're not going to support. And I'm going to go down possibly a slippery slope or a very dark hole, and I may lose some viewership because of what I'm about to say, but I think that we need to kind of dissect this into parts or sections. Like me and you, we both disagree and think it's awful what's going on right now with all 32 teams in the NFL. But I'm also here to preface what I'm going to say by saying I am not going to stop watching the NFL. That doesn't mean I support the players who are doing that, but I'm hoping that this is just a phase. And football was a place that I went to get away from, everything else, all the other outside distractions from the world, and one of those being politics. There's nothing better than sitting back on a Sunday and watching football, especially the New England Patriots. Go Pats. And I want to look at this from a player's perspective, and then I want to look at it from an NFL perspective, and then I want to look at it from a perspective from people like me and you who get it and who really know what our flag and anthem symbolize. Do these players have a right to kneel for our flag? Yeah, they do. It's not a law on the books. It's not against our laws, because the Constitution grants freedom of expression, freedom of speech. It grants those things. Now, when respect comes in to the knowledge that they are doing it out of spite and hate, we see that as them being cowards and, the most disrespectful of human beings that could possibly walk the face of the earth. But by law, it's okay for them to do that. However, the league, though, could implement some sort of rules regarding the national anthem as far as what needs to be done by all 32 teams, coaches, and players when the national anthem is sung and the flag is displayed on the field before each game. You see all the time in the NFL, like I think it was Marshawn Lynch a couple years ago. He kept getting fined by the NFL because he didn't go to his press conferences. And you're required as an NFL player to go to your press conferences. And I think it was like $25,000 that they fined him each time that he didn't go to a press conference. And then when he did go to a press conference, he just sat up there and said, I'm only here so I don't get fined. And then that was turned into a Vine and memes all over the internet. You guys have probably seen that. But we don't even need to talk about NFL policy when it comes to the national anthem, because the NFL already has a policy in place for the national anthem, just as they have a policy in place for press conferences for players. Here's what it says. This is directly out of the rule book for the National Football League. And here it states this. The national anthem must be played prior to every NFL game, and all players must be on the sidelines for the national anthem. During the national anthem, players on the field and bench area should stand at attention, face the flag, hold helmets in their left hand, and refrain from talking. The home team should ensure that the American flag is in good condition. It should be pointed out to players and coaches that we continue to be judged by the public in this area of respect for flag and for country. Failure to be on the field by the start of the national anthem may result in discipline such as fines, suspension, and or the forfeit of draft choices for violations of the above, including first offenses. How many fines have been issued by the NFL for these players? How many suspensions have been issued for these players in the NFL? I mean, regardless of what the players want to do, and the owners of the teams kneeling with them in the center of the field and showing utter disrespect for our country and the men who fought for that flag. It's not about police brutality. It's about these players showing pure and utter hate for the country who have given them fame and fortune beyond belief. That's how they say thank you. But what's even worse, well, I don't know if it's worse, but what's just as bad is Roger Goodell, the commissioner of the NFL, who these are his rules that I just read you. That their failure to do any of these things may result in discipline such as fines, suspensions, and they forfeit draft choices. That's from the commissioner's office. But what does he do? Comes out and says, oh, we stand with these. Why didn't he stand with Marshawn Lynch when he didn't show up at a press conference? I mean, that was considered his freedom not to express, right? His freedom not to speak. That's also granted and protected by the Constitution of the United States. No one's forced to speak. But the NFL says you have to. Just like in this situation. The NFL says you got to stand. You can't talk. You got to be on the field. Or else you'll have these disciplines. But no, they're praising it. They're ignoring what's implemented in their own policy book. I mean, this is how it stands now. If they want to change it, okay. I won't have this. I'll still have the same opinion as the players who want to sit, but I won't be bringing this up as them being utter hypocrites as to what is in their rule book. And last time I checked, which is just about 14 minutes ago from when I refreshed my page, it's still there. It's still a rule that applies to every player during every NFL football game. So that's the problem I have with the NFL not standing by what they put in their policies. But here's why I'm going to continue to watch the NFL. Because I love the sport. I do. And there's a lot of players that have all the players in the NFL have a crazy amount of talent. And I enjoy watching their God-given talents out there on the field each Sunday. I do. And you guys like that too. Even the ones saying they're never going to watch it again. I'll believe it when I see it. But if you want to, good for you. I'm not against that either. But if it's so deep-rooted in your value system not to watch the NFL because of these idiots on the sideline, and they're your deep-rooted principles that I am not standing for this. Well, on the conservative side of the aisle, I know for me, my deep-rooted hatred for Planned Parenthood. I'm going to read you some of the companies who directly fund Planned Parenthood. And when I get through reading this list, I want you to ask yourself, do you patronize any of these companies that I'm about to read? And if you do, are you going to stop patronizing them? Are you going to stop giving them your money just as you are going to quit watching football on Sundays? Because at the end of the day, we would have nothing if we thought like this on every single topic. And if you want to choose this one and not the other, that's fine. That's your right to do that. That's not necessarily how I'm going to do it. I still have my principles. I still have my values. And I still can enjoy football. So here's the list of companies who directly fund Planned Parenthood. These are just a few. Adobe, American Cancer Society, American Express, AT&T, Avon, Bank of America, Bath & Body Works, Ben & Jerry's, Clorox, Converse, Deutsche Bank, Dockers, Energizer, Expedia, ExxonMobil, Fannie Mae, Groupon, Intuit, Johnson & Johnson, Levi's, Liberty Mutual, Macy's, March of Dimes, Microsoft, Morgan Stanley, Nike, Oracle, PepsiCo, Pfizer, Progressive, Starbucks, Susan G. Komen, Tostitos, United Way, Verizon, and Wells Fargo. So are you going to take this same stance on these companies if you're a conservative and just not pay? I mean, your house would be empty. Your life would be nothing without half these companies to most of you. Is it that easy when it comes to that? Or is it just the relief of a Facebook post to see how many likes you're going to get because you're standing against the NFL? Because in all actuality, you didn't really care for it anyways. It was just something you did because you thought you had to fit in. But are you gonna quit patronizing these companies? I don't think so. But maybe. And I'm not just speaking to the conservatives here either. Because this is an issue that's very divided. I mean, or it's not necessarily divided. Both liberals and Democrats, a lot of them view this as being disrespectful and a terrible, terrible thing. Just like the Democrats also hate guns in the NRA. So for you liberal friends out there, are you going to stop patronizing the companies that you're already using because they help fund the NRA? And here are some of those companies. Avis Budget Group, Best Western, eHealth, FedEx, First National Bank of Omaha, GoHealth, Hertz Rent-A-Car, Insperity Financial, Life Insurance Central, LifeLock, Lifeline Screening, National Alamo, Enterprise Rentals, Payment Alliance, PayPal, Smart Waiver, Staples, TrueCar, Wyndham Hotel Group, which owns Days Inns, Ramadas, Howard Johnson's, Super 8s. So if you're a liberal, are you going to give those up? Just like you say you're going to give up the NFL? You could. Would you want to drastically change your life in that way? By not patronizing these companies? I mean, I'm not trying to come off as rude or, or hateful. I'm just saying we're human and I know exactly what's going to happen. You're not going to quit doing all that stuff. And I understand maybe the flag and the anthem is high on your priority. I mean, a priority list to protect and to stand for. And for me too. I mean, that's the highest thing. Our flag. But something that's equally as important as that to me, or even, of course, more important than that to me, is life. So that's why I'm 100% against killing babies. And I just read you the list of people who support Planned Parenthood. I have Verizon for my cell phone provider. I'm not canceling Verizon as my provider. I'm not going to stop drinking Pepsi Just as you're not going to stop going to McDonald's, who also supports them, and you're also not going to stop in the morning going to Starbucks to get your coffee fix. We both know that this is true. And if you say it isn't, you're lying. If you have Verizon and you say you're going to cancel, you may, but most likely you're not going to. So do what you want, America. But please, just do what you say. Back in a minute. Hello, it's Bryce here from Liberty Root, and have you missed one of our past podcasts and just wondering exactly where to go to find them? Well, now it's easier than ever. Go to youtube.com and in the search bar type in Liberty Root Podcast and you can find all of our past episodes that we've done. Also there, you can find every episode of our Heroes in History series. So, that is youtube.com. In the search bar, you need to type in Liberty Root Podcast and you can listen until your little heart is content. Born November 30th, 1874, Prime Minister Winston Churchill was one of America's best friends ever. Churchill was the leader of Britain during World War II, and he saw war coming before anyone else. He warned against Hitler, but the people just said that Churchill was just a warmonger. Churchill warned that they were building planes to come and wipe us off the map. The people didn't listen at the time, and even his own party kicked him to the curb. Churchill thought that his career was over, so he went quietly back to his home to do what he loved, paint. But then he appealed to America. And as tension grew more and more, Britain realized what they have done, and they asked him to come back. In 1941, Great Britain was alone in the war, and America was still neutral while Germany's planes were attacking London by night. Churchill wrote a letter to Roosevelt, the President of the United States. He told Roosevelt to please put your confidence in us and give us your faith and blessing. We shall not fail or falter, weaken or tire. Neither the shock of battle nor the long trials of vigilance will wear us down. Please, Mr. President, give us the tools and we will get the job done. Winston Churchill was confident in America, even more confident than America was in itself at the time. Churchill's mother was an American, and through her he understood America and America's people. He believed in America. He knew that in order to win, America would have to enter the war alongside Great Britain in order to preserve freedom. Churchill believed that America was a good nation, and that they were ready to take the role of leader in the world. He was like an uncle to America, familiar, caring, and stern. He was a strong voice in a world of weakness. After the war and after the victory, he warned America again, don't ever let down your guard. And then the same people who drove him out of office the first time drove him out again. Churchill once gave the Iron Curtain speech. He described the Soviet domination over half of Europe and warned of the moral evil of communism taking over. And Churchill's voice was the voice that everyone needed during war times and during peacetime. Churchill was a realist, and he truly understood human nature. It is known that during Roosevelt's presidency, over 1,700 letters would be exchanged between the two. Britain had gained a friend in America, and America gained one in Britain. If it wasn't for Churchill's principles and demeanor, the outcome of World War II could have been much different, and the solid relationship formed with the U.S. may have never happened. Churchill was the best American that America never had. Our interests were his interests. and he saw what was to be had in America, and also what could be so devastatingly lost. Churchill taught us that courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, and courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen. And with America, he did exactly both. Winston Churchill was the very definition of courage, and a huge reason why our country is the confident and courageous America that we are today. Even though Churchill was of another national descent, he saw America as the leader of all, to set the example and to forever hold on to the reins.
You're listening to the Liberty Root Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Liberty Root Podcast. We're going to start a new segment tonight, and it's called What's Trending in the News Today, where we bring you 3 stories that are top of the headlines. The first one is a given. We know about the devastation that's happening in Las Vegas right now, which we discussed during our first segment. The second top trending news story that we want to get to today is Yahoo is back in the news, warning people that every user who had a Yahoo account in August of 2013 was likely affected by its massive hack. That's every user who had a Yahoo account. I have a Yahoo account. This is what the parent company Verizon said on Tuesday. The latest disclosure triples the number of accounts compromised by the major 2013 data breach that the company disclosed late last year. At that time, Yahoo said hackers had stolen data associated with 1 billion user accounts. The new disclosure estimates that to be 3 billion. So, well done, Yahoo. Here's a story, and it's actually one of the top trending stories right now in the news. I don't know if you remember in 2016, there was a girl by the name of Valeria Lukinova. She's from Ukraine. She was a model, and her life goal was to set out to be a human Barbie. She claims that she hasn't had any work done or nothing like that on her face. I'll post a link on our Facebook page so you can scroll through the pictures and you be the guess of, or you be the judge of if she's had any work done. But she's back in the news again. And let's see, not being preoccupied with plastic surgery, the 31-year-old posted an online video of herself verbally attacking women who do not meet her specific standards of beauty. Well, she looks like a plastic Barbie doll. I don't know what kind of standard exactly that is to be set. And lastly, in the news, a very sad day for music fans all across the country. Legendary musician Tom Petty was pronounced dead last night at about 8:03 p.m. Pacific time. Tom Petty, he went into cardiac arrest. He went into cardiac arrest at his home, his Malibu home, at 10:52 in the morning yesterday, which was, what would that be, Tuesday morning, and was rushed to the hospital shortly thereafter, and he was discovered that he wasn't having any signs of brain activity, so yesterday afternoon they decided to take him off life support, and then a few hours later he was pronounced dead. So rest in peace, Tom Petty. And those are the top 3 what's trending in the news today. Back in a second. that music means that we have reached a point in the podcast where we say goodbye and so long for the evening. I will tell you guys that it's very nice to be getting back into a routine after vacation. Don't get me wrong, the vacation was nice, but I really love doing this, and I want to thank you guys for all the support that you've given me so far. A couple things real quick. I want to remind you still that we still have our fundraiser going on for the National Down Syndrome Society, our GoFundMe page that's linked to them. And that website is gofundme.com/LibertyRootStands with NDSS. gofundme.com/LibertyRootStands with NDSS. And the second thing I want to talk about is we're going to do a drive for 5. As you notice, our Facebook page, we don't quite have the following that we really envisioned or wanted to have at this point. So we're doing a drive for 5, and that's a drive for 500 likes on our Liberty Root Facebook account. So if you haven't already, go to facebook.com/LibertyRoot1776 and give us a like. If you already like our page, we would really appreciate it if you would share it to get the word out there, because we're doing a good thing here, and I want to thank you guys. We couldn't do it without you. Well, that does it for this evening. We want to keep everybody in Las Vegas and all the families who are affected by this terrible, terrible tragedy in our thoughts and prayers. And until next week, as always, live life, restore liberty, and pursue happiness. Have a good evening, everybody.
This has been a Liberty Root production.